What we know as the Areu collection today was found in the trash in the landfill of the town of Jerome, Arizona. This was the personal papers and musical score of Manuel Areu. Manuel Areu was a musician, composer, actor and impresario from Spain. He was the head of the Zarzuela company, which was active in Cuba, Mexico and the southwest of the United States from 1868 to 1917. A partial work of organizing and cataloging started in 1970. It was in 1976 when Professor Mari Montaño completed her thesis, putting the collection in the historical context. Later, Dr. Sally Wiesel wrote a doctoral dissertation about the collection, expanding the research about Areu life. Today, at the Honors Research Institute, we focus in the music of Manuel Areu. Manuel Areu was a witness of very interesting moments in Cuba, Mexico, and the United States. His music reflects those times. As a performance, we want to play this music. So we transcribe several pieces for piano, we are working in the transcription of orchestral pieces, and today, for the first time in more than 100 years, we will listen to Areu's original music.
Manuel Areu grew up in a family of musicians. At an early age, he traveled throughout Spain with his father as he performed at music theaters. He received a violin from his father and he received piano training from his mom. At the age of 11, he began his formal training.
It's not really surprising then, because of his musical background, that he decided to make his own compositions. His first piece, Dolores, which he considers his opus 1, he wrote in his early 20s, around 1868. The piece itself says a lot about Areu's musical background. There are stylistic choices, such as the piano, which mimics a Spanish guitar, and there's also things that indicate his level of maturity and skill.
Now, in 1868, there was a political unrest in Spain as the people were revolting against Queen Elizabeth II. Areu's family had received a contract from a theater group in Havana, Cuba, and so his father formed a theater group in Spain, and they embarked on a trip to Havana, Cuba, where they also found political unrest from the fight for independence from Spain.
Manuel Areu's compositions consisted of work for both the theater and the salon. While his works for the theater were generally orchestral pieces and somewhat complex, his works for the salon were very simple, often only piano or piano vocal scores. Recuerdos de Tlacotalpan is a perfect example of his salon work. A piano solo, it is rather unspecial when compared to his other work. However, it does contain one unique aspect, a date stamp. From that stamp, we can place it in 1874.
Areu traveled extensively to Cuba, Mexico, and possibly back to Spain. The influences of these places are seen in his music, both in titles, which often reference place names or political events, and in the musical styles themselves. One example of this, as seen in Recuerdos, as well as the Cuban songs Madre Mía and Ante en Cristo Yo Recé, is Afrocubanismo.
Looking at Manuel Areu's memoirs and personal papers, we get a really good sense of who he was as a person. We can see how passionate he was about life, how in love he was with life, how he was interested in a little bit of everything, especially when he's talking about leaving Spain for the first time and making his way as a performer in Latin America, how excited he was to start a new life and see new people and learn about new cultures. It's important to remember that he was a middle-class performer in his own lifestyle. He had a precarious job situation, he had financial ups and downs throughout his life, yet when he was performing to a wide variety of people, whether that was lower middle class locals in different towns coming to see a show, or wealthier politicians and their families. And that's a really fascinating thing about the music, is that it reached such a wide variety of audiences in Latin America. His music really reflects who he was and who he was performing to, and that's a really great thing about what we're looking at here.
1916, Manuel Areu wrote El Minero and performed it at the Buena Vista Theater in Buena Vista, which is a huge copper mining town, one of the largest in the world. Now, Areu wrote this because he wanted to portray the life of the miners and the struggles that they faced, and he wanted all the people to know the difficulties that they encountered, and he wrote very emotional scenes depicting their lives.
It's not surprising that he chose to write a piece about the miners. At this time, he also helped his son-in-law form a mining union in Jerome, Arizona, which is where his family was living. At the time, they formed that union from one that had been formed in El Paso, Texas, which is where they lived before they moved to Jerome. So one would assume that Areu saw these struggles of these people in his day-to-day life and was inspired by them and chose to present them in a place in which it would be heard from a massive amount of people, such as Buena Vista, which is a huge mining town in Mexico.
I worked mainly with the hymno for Porfirio Diaz and Polonesa. The Polonesa is a particularly interesting piece. It wasn't originally in the collection. It was found to be in his grandson's possession, and when Mary Montaño found it, it was in great condition because of that. It hadn't been exposed to so many elements, so it's a really prized piece. The handwriting is clean, the document is obviously less weathered, less damaged, and it's just a really interesting piece because it's written for the instrument he originally played.
The process of historical research and the musical transcription was very complex and very interesting.
I had never done anything like this before. I didn't even know the program, so I had to go learn that. And then I had to learn a lot of things about written music that I didn't actually know before, especially things that were particular to music in the 19th century.
But it was a magical moment in which everything made perfect sense. It was in the first rehearsal when we have the opportunity to listen to Areu's music for the first time.
Overall, I'm very excited to be able to give this product back and to let this music once again be played and heard. And I feel that this process has been unbelievably important and is successful because of that we are able to put on this performance and to let the world have this music again.
His music and the music that complete his collection gives a better idea and understanding how was the cultural life of Mexico, Cuba, and the southwest of the United States. It is our responsibility to bring back to life this heritage.